Nick Childs. While the attack on affirmative action has typically featured white students claiming that blacks and Hispanics were stealing college admission slots that rightfully belonged to them, the lawsuit filed yesterday against the admission policies of Harvard had one key difference. This time, it's Asian students claiming that blacks and Hispanics applicants are taking their slots. The court's conservative majority have shown a willingness in the past to strike down racial preference in admissions at public institutions, giving hopes to opponents of affirmative action that this suit against a prestigious private school could mean the end of policy in all university admissions. If the suit is successful, along with a suit filed against the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill yesterday, some experts estimate it could reduce the black student population at elite university, which is extremely paltry, by as much as 50%. You know, I want to play something here. I gotta play something here. Let me play something here. Let me play this something here. This is something that I play all the time, but I just want to tune this up. I want to play this again because I think in situations like this, these type of audio is so important. So take a listen to this audio.
That one day, this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Segregated schools were and are inferior schools. We still haven't fixed them 50 years after Brown versus Board of Education. And the inferior education they provided, then and now, helps explain the pervasive achievement gap between today's black and white students.
I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream for this.
When we take those tests, even when black and Latino students score at the top of the distribution, so even when black and Latino students do very well using the biased and absurd indicators that we use in this country, they're still 40% less likely to be put into an advanced placement class or an honors class in high school than white students who scored in the middle of the distribution. So you have average white students, according to this criteria, and of course the criteria is bogus, but understand it's the one we use. Using this criteria, white students who are merely average are still more likely to have advanced or accelerated classes once they get to high school. Now what does that mean? It means that those students are going to get more prepared for the SAT, right? They're going to get more prepared for the ACT, they're going to take the test, and they're going to do better. And we're going to act shocked when people of color do worse on a test that they were systemically excluded from preparing for. As if that is a surprise. I mean, black and Latino students of whatever socioeconomic status, 2.5 times more likely than whites to be put into remedial classes, where they're not going to receive the same instruction, they're not going to have the same coursework, they're not going to be challenged in the same way, right? And so we then act surprised when in 11th grade they take the SAT, the ACT, they don't do as well, and then our society says, what? Well, now you're not capable of going on to college, or at least not that college, because you're not as smart as somebody else over here. The fact that the structure of the educational system guaranteed that you would not do as well, virtually assured it, is something we don't want to talk about. But that's the systemic issue.
To me, our achievement gap is largely a function of institutional racism. It's largely a function of how we do education. The overassignment of students of color to special education, that's institutional racism. It's built into the system. Institutional racism is where There's a set of assumptions, behaviors, procedures, ways of doing things that are just commonly accepted that everybody kind of participates in, but they have these inequitable results by race. Overassignment of students to special ed, students of color to special ed. Overassignment of your least experienced, least trained, least educated, most alternatively educated teachers to the kids, to students of color. If you look at a district that's very racially diverse and has middle class, lower class, all of your most experienced, most educated, best teachers will be in the middle class white schools. And the greater percentage of your least experienced, new teachers, particularly brand new teachers, least educated, most alternatively certified, will be in your low-income schools, particularly students of color. And that's national, and it's accepted. That's institutional racism. Overassignment of kids of color to buildings that are the worst buildings, have the worst supplies, have the worst equipment or the least equipment. Underassignment of kids of color to gifted class. All the experts say gifted is equally distributed across all populations. So if I go into a gifted class in a diverse school, I ought to see the same proportions of kids in the gifted as I see in the low track. But 90% of the schools you go into, if you go to a low track school in a diverse school, it'll be kids of color, low income, in the low track, and in the high track will be white middle-class kids.
So in schools, for example, the lower expectations that students of color and white students commonly, or the students of color and low-income students and language minority students commonly run into are a form of institutional racism. Tracking structures, and then the whole tracking special education continuum, so you have special education all the way up to college prep and GATE, gifted and talented, in which white students are disproportionately in the upper level groups, as are affluent students, and students of color and students from low income communities are disproportionately in the lower level groups, that are then given instruction that takes them to very different futures.
Maybe the hardest part is if you teach, you have to live your teaching. You can't say, you do not as I do, but do as I say. No. You have to say, I'm doing my best to live what I teach. I have a painting by Phoebe of a group that she calls Sister Suki's Funeral. And all the women, there are about 9 women, and they all look like women in my grandmother's prayer meeting group. So whenever I'm obliged to do something, I take that painting and I look at that painting. There's an empty chair. And I think, now what would Grandma do? What would she say? I can almost hear her voice say, now, sister, you know what's right. Just do right. You don't really have to ask anybody. The truth is, right may not be expedient. It may not be profitable, but it will satisfy your soul. It brings you the kind of protection that bodyguards can't give you. Try to be all you can be, to be the best human being you can be. Try to be that in your church, in your temple. Try to be that in your classroom. Do it because it is right to do. You see, people will know you, and they will add their prayers to your life. They'll wish you well. I think if your name is mentioned and people say, oh, hell, oh, damn, I think you're doing something wrong. But if your name is mentioned and people say, oh, she's so sweet, he's so nice, oh, I love, oh, God bless her. There you are. So try to live your life in a way that you will not regret years of useless virtue and inertia and timidity. Take up the battle. Take it up. It's yours. This is your life. This is your world. I'll be leaving it long before you under the ordinary set of circumstances. You make your own choices. You can decide life isn't worth living. And that would be the worst thing you can do. How do you know? So far. Try it. See. So pick it up. Pick up the battle and make it a better world. Just where you are. Yes. And it can be better, and it must be better. But it is up to us.
Hello, my friend. It may seem a little strange to have a bear talking to you, but as you well know, these are strange times and tough times, and someone who cares about you wanted me to remind you to hang on, hang in, and have hope. Tough times don't require you to be tough on yourself, and things don't have to be good for you to be great. Have hope. Sometimes having less in life can be worth more. Be proud of who you are. Have hope. Greatness isn't ahead of you, but within you. Don't confuse what you have with who you are, and don't let the past kidnap your future. Have hope. At the end of the day, hope for the best. Make peace with the rest. Leave your fears behind and put your faith in charge. Peace.
We are back with you. It's in the Village with Anselm Marjorie in the South Orange Maple Online Radio Experience. Coming to you every Monday through Friday from 8 to 9:30 p.m. That's 8 to 9:30 p.m. You can reach us here at 973-327-3626. That's 973-327-3626. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I played all of those audios for you because of the article that I'm reading titled Asians Suing Harvard Over Affirmative Action Could Cause Huge Drop in Black Students at Elite Schools. The article goes on to say, the Asian plaintiffs in the suit, which was filed by the Project on Fair Representation, claim Harvard's affirmative action policies discriminated against Asians who were rejected by admissions despite having higher test scores and grade point average than Black and Hispanic students who were accepted. Edward Blum, who runs the Project on Fair Representation, said it is clear case of favoring certain racial group over others. Quotas and racial balancing are strictly against the law. Blum told Fox News it was Blum Group that sued the University of Texas on behalf of a white applicant over its affirmative action admission policies in a case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court last year. The Supreme Court disappointed opponents of affirmative action looking for a resounding rejection of the controversial policy by issuing a 7-1 ruling sending the University of Texas affirmative action case back to the lower court. With the ruling, the court concluded that the lower court did not bring enough scrutiny to UT's use of race. The case is still pending. In claiming that the lower court misinterpreted an earlier Supreme Court decision, the Supreme Court made it more difficult for University of Texas to prove that its affirmative action program is constitutional. It's a narrow victory for Abigail Fisher, the white woman who initiated the challenge by claiming UT Austin unconstitutionally program. While Justin Anthony Kennedy, writing for the majority, appears to endorse the Supreme Court's earlier decision, establishing that affirmative